video, we are going to learn about functions in C Sharp. Alright, see, functions are a very important topic, alright, in terms of programming, alright. The reason behind that is because functions helps us to manage our code, alright. It helps us to, lower the number of codes we write. Uh, function helps our means function helps us to keep our code clean, alright. So a function has a lot of use cases, all right. In when you will be developing, all right, your AR applications, you will be working with functions, all right, like update, all right, like the update method in Unity is a function. The start method in a Unity is a function, right? So basically, functions and methods, all right, are an essential part of programming any software, all right. See, whenever we code, we have to follow a very simple principle of dry. Now, what is dry? Dry means don't repeat yourself, all right. Why? Because it increases the code quality. It saves a lot of time, all right. And functions, in simpler terms, functions or methods are basically a block of code, all right. They are basically a block of code which can be used anytime we want, all right, without repeating ourselves, all right. Like for an example, you have implemented an algorithm, all right, that is a sorting algorithm. Let's say you have implemented a selection sort algorithm, all right. Now you have to use that algorithm at multiple places in your program, right? So let's say the algorithm is of 10 to 20 lines, all right. For example, now the problem would come that if you manually write that algorithm in each and every portion, now it will increase the code base, all right. It will increase the code base, then it will cost you a lot of your time, all right, and time is money, right? So what function does is we can create a function of that particular sorting algorithm and use that function everywhere, all right. So that saves a lot of time and makes the code base more optimized. So it is very important, all right, to understand the concept of functions, all right. So basically there are two steps through which we can use a function. The first is we have to create a function, all right, and the second is we have to call a function, all right. Now, see, I would show you what does calling a function means is, all right. See, for an example, if I had to show you a function right now, this, you can see this main method right in here, all right, or main function right in here is a function, all right. The difference between a regular function and this main function or the main method is that main method calls itself automatically, all right. It is called automatically, whereas a regular function has to be called by the user, all right, or the developer. So this is the major difference between a specified, means this main function, and a regular function, all right. Now by calling it, we have to call the function. We have to say to the function that function, do this task for me, then only the function will work, all right. He won't do the task by himself. We have to command him, all right. So that's why we call a function, right. Now as we have discussed about function, one more thing is that you have to keep in mind whenever creating a function, now you can't create a function inside another function, all right. Always remember that. So whenever we create a function, it should be outside a function, all right, like this: public static, all right, void set score, all right, and like this, all right. We create a function like this. Now I know this might be a bit confusing, all right, so I'm going to explain you each and everything. First of all, let's start with the syntax, right. Let me create a commented line, all right. In this commented line, the first, all right, the first that would come will be an access modifier, all right. The very first thing will be access modifier. I will tell you what exactly is the access modifier, all right. After that, there will come a return type, all right. After the return type, all right, you have to give your function a name, all right, and then you have to give parenthesis, all right. Inside the parenthesis, you can add parameters. What are parameters? Parameters basically takes it is basically a list of arguments, all right, that we provide, like in array.sort function that I taught you in the arrays lecture, what happened in there? We provided an argument inside that sort function, right? So that's how, that's why we use parameters. So parameters would come inside this function, means this parenthesis, and then you already know what to do. Open and close curly brackets, all right? And inside this, you have to put some code, all right? Now, let's see the actual code for it. First of all right, here you can see we are writing a function. First of all, we are giving an access modifier, all right, public, all right, void, all right, and then what you have to give is a function name. What would be the function name? The function, let's set the function name as set scope, all right. And now inside this function we have to give, all right, write some code, that is console dot write line, and inside this you have to print something. Let's print hello world. Now to call this function, or let's rename this function to hello world only, all right. So now to call this function, what we have to do is, just wait, yeah, to call this function what we have to do is we have to write the function name like this and then add parenthesis into it, and let's run it. So here you can see, all right, here you can see it is giving us an error. What is this error? It is telling us an object reference is required to access non-static member, all right. The reason is we didn't give any reference to the object, all right. And currently, as you have not learned about object-oriented programming, we'll be learning about object-oriented programming in the next class. So here's a keyword, all right, static, all right. Right now, you don't have to put your mind into the keyword static and public, all right, because these two keywords will make more sense after the next lecture, all right, because these two basically these two keywords are mostly used in object-oriented programming only, all right. So now let's run the program and let's see what happens. See, we are able to get the output, all right. Now I would explain you, all right, I would explain you this code, all right. What exactly are these? First, you can see we are specifying an access modifier, that is this one. This is the access modifier. Now what exactly is an access modifier? Access modifier is like a gatekeeper, all right. Like let's say you have a security guard in your house, all right. You have guided, means you have told that the security guard that you are you don't want anybody to disturb you, all right. So at that point of time, you have gone private. But if your security guard, if you haven't, if you have told your security guard that, brother, if anyone comes to meet me, then let him inside, all right, let him come inside. So then you are public, all right. The security guard will let it go. It's the access modifiers are also something like this. Public and private, all right. Public and private. Public means you can access that particular thing from any class, all right. Whereas private means you can't access that particular thing, let it be a variable or method, you can't access it outside of their class. So I know this might seem a bit overwhelming, or maybe it might seem a bit confusing, but that's totally okay, because all these concepts, all right, you will get a grip on all these concepts after the next lecture, because in object-oriented programming we are going to learn more about methods, we are going to learn more about access modifiers, we are going to experiment with it, all right. So don't worry, all right. Now I hope the basic concept of access modifier is clear. It just access modifier helps us to modify the access, all right. It helps us to modify, restrict the access of any variable or of any method, all right. So that is what an access modifier is. Next, here comes the static keyword, all right. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the static keyword, all right. Let me I'm going to explain the static keyword in the next lecture, all right, because this static keyword is one of the very important concept that you should know, all right. After the static keyword, comes return type. All right, return type. All right, return type is basically what kind of value we want to return to the function. All right, return type basically defines what value can be returned to the function. It can be of void. All right, it can be float, it can be string. All right, so now see, access modifiers can be of multiple types. All right, it can be boolean. All right, it can be of bool, it can be of float, it can be of string. All right, another type is void. In a void, all right, in a void return type, we do not need to return. All right, we do not need to return anything in a void, in a void function. But let's say we create a function with a different return type, let's say int. All right, so public static int. All right, let's say we are let's create a function that would give us the square of some number. So let's write a function that is square of. All right, then in here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable. All right, that is int, let's say square. All right, square of. I'm going to create this variable. All right, in here the s is small and in the function it is in caps. All right, so don't worry. So now what I can do, how to how can we exactly make a square of the number, right? Multiply that number with the same number, right? So here I'm taking an parameter. All right, so the parameter would be integer n. All right, you can take as many parameters you want. All right, I can even take another parameter as in float. All right, I can even take that is float n1. All right, I can do that. So the thing is, you don't have to be like the function can only take one parameter. You can give as many parameters you want. All right, so now as we have given the parameter, we are doing it n into n, and after that I'm returning. All right, I'm returning, we are using the return keyword. I'm returning this square of. All right, I'm returning this square of variable to the function. Now in here, as we called this function, it printed us hello. All right, but to get the value of this function, all right, that is the square of function, it would be a bit different. How? Let me tell you. Let's try it out actually. All right, let's take the square of square of function, and let's put a value, let's say 2. We want square of 2. Now let's run it. Let's see. See here, you can see your program did not output anything. The reason behind is it is not printing anything. It is returning the value to the function. Now to print, all right, now to print the value of the function, what we have to do is we have to store this, store the returned value into a variable. So how do we do that? So create a variable that is int final. You can name it anything. After you have stored it like this, then you can do console dot write line final. All right, and after that you can simply print anything. All right, means simply print it. Now let's say try out square of 4. So the square of 4 will be 16, right? So here you can see that it is giving us the output as 16. Similarly, you can also create your return types as boolean. All right, you can create your return types as string. All right, one more thing you have to keep in mind: if you are specifying a return type like int, you have to return integer values only. If you try to return float value, floating point or string value, it would give you error. All right, so make sure you practice on this. All right, and don't worry about the access modifiers and the static keyword. All right, because in the next lecture, that is where we'll be exploring classes and objects, that is a basics of object-oriented programming. There would be there you would be learning about the static keyword, the about static classes. You'll be learning about objects. All right, you would be learning about instances. Then you would also be learning about this access modifiers, how we use them, right? So you'd be learning all those things in the next lecture. So don't worry if you are confused somehow. By the next lecture, the topic of functions will be very clear to you. But if I had to say in a very simple word, functions are just basically a block of code that help us to reduce reduce the lines of a code. All right, we can reuse that function. And always remember, don't repeat. Always follow the principle of don't repeat yourself. All right, like let's say if you are creating an algorithm, then create a function of that algorithm so that you can use that function anywhere you want. All right. So make sure you follow the principles of dry. All right. So yeah, that's it for this lecture. So in the next lecture, we are going to learn about classes and objects.